Tips and tricks, let's do this. Your seating plan is your best friend, my precious. It is the best student management device that you have on your bus. It's simple. Don't put people beside each other that don't get along. Or don't put people beside each other that you know is going to amp up the energy in the bus. Tips and tricks, let's do this. If you're dropping off a student and something feels weird, just ask. Radio into head office and just ask the question. 2 minutes of inconvenience at the stop is going to be a lot less of a headache than 2 hours with the RCMP. That's the cops for any of you who don't know what the RCMP is. Tips and tricks, let's do this. If you were dropping off a student and they're carrying something like a project, a basketball, especially the little ones, be sure to pay extra attention to where those students are. All it takes is for that project or ball to fall and go under your bus, and now you have a horrible situation happening. Before you start moving again, take extra time to make sure that that child is away from the bus, still with their item. Tips and tricks, let's do this. If you have a new student coming to your bus and you've heard horrible things about them, don't believe it. Meet that student with no preconceived notions about them. Because that student that another bus driver could have had a ton of problems with could be your best student on your bus. What's the worst part of school bus driving? Ask nobody, but I'm going to answer anyway. The absolute worst part of my job is seeing one of my students in pain. That can either be physical pain or emotional pain. Emotional pain tends to be the one that happens more often though. Watching one of my students in tears is one of the most heart-wrenching moments of my job. Because all I want to do is sit with that student and tell them that it's going to be okay and be there to comfort them. But I can't because I have to drive the bus. I make it very clear to those students that if they need me, all that they have to do is wave and I will stop the bus. And I will. But here's the problem. The more times that I have to stop the bus, the longer it's going to take for us to get to school. And at least when they're at school, there's going to be another adult that can sit with them. Because I get to sit in my front seat, look in my mirror, and see tears pouring down the children's face. But I get to be strong in those moments, but you better bet when those kids get off the bus, I cry. Now let's go over some tips or tricks that I use to help that student while I'm driving. First, when I see that student is upset, I'm going to put my park brake on and I am going to go talk to that student. One-on-one and down at their level. 2, when going and talking to them, I'm going to bring Mr. Octopus. He is our emotional support stuffy that sits on my dashboard. He also happens to be one of those octopuses that you can flip the moods. Yellow being happy, red being mad. And as an off point, I use that octopus to tell the students how I'm feeling that day. To not only let the students know that you are allowed to have bad days, but also if I don't tend to be my cheerful, happy self, they know why. And they don't take it personally then that I might not be talking to them as much. Now back to the upset child. If there's another family member that is supportive and caring, I'll move a couple people around to make sure that they're able to sit together for that one ride. This could also be a friend that they don't normally sit with. When I'm having my one-on-one with the upset student, I make sure to acknowledge the emotions and say that you are allowed to be emotional. You are allowed to have those emotions. And that all of us do from time to time. In this particular case, I got to tell them that this happens to me. It happened to me yesterday. While I was doing my pre-trip on the bus, I was crying. But by the time I got all my students on board, they switched my mood 180 degrees. Now I know some of you, when I said, raise your hand and I'll stop the bus, you went, ooh, no, I wouldn't do that. That student might do that too much. We'd never get to school on time. In point of fact, in all of the years that I've been doing this, not once has a student abused that privilege at all. In fact, I've never even had one raise their hand. By you giving them that option, it will make them feel calmer. You are giving them a sense of control over a situation that they feel like in the moment they can't control. You are saying to that child, your emotions matter and you are valid. And that if you ever need help, I'm here. And that statement alone will allow a lot of those students to calm down a little bit.